My work schedule got a little thrown off this morning, so I got home a little later than I expected. But anyway, here we are, still talking about the history of the cannabis plant. So I left off with the creation of the Tax Act. I'm sorry, I got so distracted just then. So it was the 1937 Tax Act that was overturned in 1969, but then in 1970, the Controlled Substance Act was created. And that's the one where they schedule the medications according to harm or less harm, however you want to look at it. But they considered cannabis a very harmful substance because they said it had no therapeutic value at all. So it's very dangerous and harmful. So it's still a Schedule 1. But in 1976, a federal judge ruled in favor of this patient named Robert C. Randall. This guy had glaucoma, and he actually went through several lawsuits over the excessive criminal status of cannabis in the establishment and the excessive criminal status of cannabis, which resulted in the establishment of what's known as the Compassionate Investigations New Drug Program of the US FDA. I'm going to turn off my notifications because I keep getting all these messages and they're distracting. Let me turn that off. Okay, done. So anyway, until the Ring doorbell goes off. All right. Anyway, so this guy had glaucoma. They decided to allow him, for a total of 15 patients, to be able to access cannabis that was grown at the University of Mississippi. Now, that program went on until 1992 when it was closed. But in 2002, Ethan Russo, who's a doctor, an MD, he studied and published the first report on the long-term effects of cannabis on 4 of 7 surviving patients from the program. I have distractions going on here. They noted a clinical effectiveness in glaucoma with the resulting in the use of cannabis. They also noted that patients that had chronic musculoskeletal pain, spasm, nausea, and spasticity of multiple sclerosis showed improvement with the use of medical cannabis. 2 of those patients out of the 7 surviving patients had mild changes in pulmonary function, and they all used pharmaceuticals sparingly, so they didn't really use a whole lot of prescribed medications. Now, to date, cannabis is still a Schedule 1, still considered non-therapeutic, except that since 2019, medical cannabis has been legalized in 35 countries and 37 states. CBD became more widespread in 2018 after the legalization of the Farm Bill, and there have been a couple of pharmaceuticals that have been created that are composed of THC and CBD, and these are used to control seizures and spasticity. One is called nabiximols, and Epidiolex was also approved in 2018 for the treatment of Lennox-Gastaut syndrome and Dravet syndrome in patients over 2 years old. So those are kids that have seizures. Now, when my kids were little, in the 80s and the 90s, there was a huge push in the schools, and you probably all remember that, but it was just say no to drugs. It was the DARE campaign. And at that time, of course, cannabis was still considered a gateway drug. It was the devil's lettuce. It was doper's delight. And as a result of this, thousands and thousands and thousands of patients or people have been arrested for using a plant, which is a harmless herb that God gave us at the beginning of time for our medicine. So we're getting there, right? There's 37 states that have legalized medical cannabis use. So we just have to continue working towards breaking the stigma of the plant. Now, I'm going to talk tomorrow about why would the church be against the use of cannabis. So I'll see you all then. Have a great